Hi, this is Mike Rosen. You might remember me from my many days in Denver radio, also as a columnist for the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News, where I was kind of a token conservative. I spent 35 years with KOA radio in Denver, and one of my fondest recollections was the time I spent with the folks at Johnson Storage and Moving. There's a difference between moving and storage and moving. And when we get into the history of the Johnson Company, you'll understand why that is. But we're celebrating the 125th anniversary of Johnson Storage and Moving. And we thought you'd like to meet some of the people who were involved in this almost from the very beginning. Mark, I remember doing commercials for you guys for 30 some odd years, and I was a customer of yours as well. We're going to go a little later on in this film, all the way down to Broadway at the original building 125 years ago of Johnson Storage and Moving. So that's going to be kind of a flashback.
Yes.
This building here out on Jordan Road is your facility, and how many years had you been here?
We moved into this building in October of 2006. We purchased the original land here in 1988. We just recently, in the last 2 years, completed this campus, which is approximately 15 acres, with our building across the parking lot here, which is 60,000 feet of very ultra high cube warehouse capacity. This building is a little over 50,000 feet of high cube warehouse capacity.
It's a little bit different from the Broadway facility, isn't it?
Significantly. We'll probably take a walk and take a look at the new building, but you could put a dozen Broadway warehouses inside the new building.
Now, you have a lot of horsepower here with your fleet of trucks, but you actually had a little less horsepower down at Broadway.
I understand the early days of Broadway, and I've only been around for about half of the 125 years, at least from a recollection standpoint. But yeah, horsepower was way easier to count in my grandfather or my great-grandfather's day. My granddad, on his final night, it was not a morose occasion. We had a wonderful discussion where he drilled me on the condition of the moving company, warehouse occupancies, cash positions, where vans were empty, and I guess I gave him satisfactory answers. He seemed, reasonably pleased, and his final parting shot was to look at me and smile and say, "I had it all over you in this business." I said, "How do you figure?" He says, "Well, in my days when the going got rough, we could always eat the horses."
Was the price of hay comparable to the price of gasoline to your feet?
I have no idea. That's a great question, but I couldn't even venture a guess.
What was it like here at this facility when you developed this property?
We bought this facility out of what was the predecessor of what became the Resolution Trust Corporation. It was a failed S&L down in Nebraska that had to foreclose on it. And we have 4 buildings on the property. The 6989 building was already on the property, which we purchased with 10 acres. Subsequently, we purchased an additional 5 acres, giving us a total of almost 15 acres out here.
Tell me a little bit about the moving-centric amenities here.
This building was a culmination of Jim's and my dreams in terms of putting together what we believe is the finest household goods moving facility in the industry. And Jim and I both had the experience of driving over-the-road moving vans. So we've been in and out of a lot of facilities, had a chance to see what worked well, what didn't work so well. One of the features of this building is what we call a pier dock, so that the side doors in moving vans can be accommodated to load and unload goods. Most moving facilities don't have that. They can only load or unload a truck through the rear doors, which can be impossible at times, depending on the loading configuration and what other tonnage is aboard a van, and inconvenient, if not impossible. We were industry trend setting in this facility in that it's very tall. We are 42.5 feet clear in this building inside. So we stack our storage containers 5 high against the industry standards of 3 to 4. Get a lot more advantage out of our cubic foot capacity within the warehouse. And We have a high-value vault, just as we had at the Broadway facility, for items of exceptional value. When things get too big for a safe deposit box at a bank but still need a degree of security, artwork, sculpture, antiquities and furnishings and the like, they go into our high-value vault.
So you actually built this facility from scratch and could custom design it. What kind of changes did you make?
Well, as I say, the pier dock was a big one. We have what we call handling cages so that people's goods don't get mingled with other people's goods. Many times in a more conventional mover's warehouse, it's just a big floor area, so it can get a little haphazard in terms of keeping right goods with the right storage lot, and we eliminate that problem with the segmentation at this building off.
Not everybody here is involved in the loading of trucks and the moving of furniture. You've got a very sophisticated shop that you maintain on your own, and we're going to see what that looks like a little later. Just give me a tease on that.
Absolutely. My granddad started in the truck maintenance business back in the 30s. The family built a truck maintenance facility behind the old Broadway building at the onset of World War II. Coming out here, we were able to establish a world-class truck repair facility, and for many years we didn't do work for outside parties, but starting about 12 or 14 years ago, we started doing outside work, and over half of the work that goes on in our maintenance shop now is for parties other than the Johnson Storage and Moving Company.
All right. Let's meet another member of the Johnson family. This is Jim Johnson, Elk Glade, Colorado. What does that mean?
So my father's people were in the moving and storage business, so my mother's people had a ranch in Teller County near Colorado Springs. So as Mark and I have been able to expand the ranch over the years, we were looking for ways to create some revenue from it. So we got into the hunting business. So Elk Glade Outfitters holds the #1 license, hunting license, outfitters license in the state of Colorado, as does Johnson Storage and Moving holds the #1 moving and storage license in the state of Colorado.
You go back here quite a few years. I heard you were the general manager here during the Great Recession.
I was. And it was bittersweet because Mark and I had built this magnificent building and the revenues stopped. Yeah. The housing market collapsed, and historically the moving and storage business had been supported by military transfers. So you always had that business to rely on. But during that failure of the economy, we were deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, so there was very little moving going on. So the industry really just disappeared, more or less. And so we had this grand facility to fill, and it was nerve-wracking.
Now, by the way, Great Recession was in 2008 or so?
Yes, about.
You go back 125 years. How did Johnson Storage and Moving survive the Great Depression?
Well, I'm told that my grandfather, that in those days, of course, everything was cash, and that literally as movers were bringing in the cash from the day, Grandpa would be turning around and doing payroll, that it was that tight, that he was basically living day to day.
You and Mark were co-developers of this parcel. Do you own other real estate around the country?
We do. Mark and I have developed properties throughout the United States, and we house, I think, almost all of our operations in our own buildings. And that was a great way that Mark invented to, even when moving and storage business didn't make a lot of money, you could be paying down debt on your building, so your balance sheet was growing even if your cash flow was poor.
How are you spending your time these days? On the ranch?
On the ranch, yes. Our ranch does 3 things in a year. We hunt in the fall. In the winter, we cut trees because there's not been a forest fire there in 150 years. And the forests have transformed from aspen forests to pine forests. So we work on cutting back the aspen forests. And then in the summer, we do cattle drives primarily for the Broadmoor Hotel, where they send us guests for a day excursion to be a cowboy on horses and look after cattle.
Do you have a favorite story from the moving company you'd like to share?
I think my favorite story in the moving company is I was a truck driver during college for the moving company, and I was at an Air Force base in Little Rock, Arkansas. And it was a major, and he had a bedroom where I was packing and loading, and he had a bedroom, and the windows were all blacked out with foil, and he had a Buddhist-looking temple that he had picked up in Taiwan or when he was in the Vietnam War. And I was down wrapping it, and I picked up a vase, and I laid it down. I was putting paper around it, and he touched me on the shoulder, and he said, "Be careful with that." He said, "That's my boy." So at that moment, I realized that this isn't a job. This is a craft, that we're touching people very intimately, and that you don't know what you're putting in your truck and what that means to those people, so that you have to treat everything with great respect because you don't know what it is to them.
All right, let me go to Don Heimpin.
Yes, sir.
You are not of the Johnson family.
So I'm the non-family family member. I'm the newbie on the block, and I've been here for 15 years. So Mark and Jim were good enough to bring me on as a business partner 15 years ago, and I moved my young family out from Chicago, and that was the best move we've ever made. Kind of like our slogan at Johnson's, the best move you'll ever make. And so Mark and Jim have really treated me like family and my family like family. So I'm sort of the fifth generation that never was.
Did you, as a little boy, think about becoming not a cowboy or a fireman, but someone in the moving business?
So I grew up being told by my father, who was rather strong-willed, that I was going to be a trial lawyer and that lawyers made all the money and got all the deals. And so I was brainwashed to be a lawyer, and I practiced law for 5 years and then got into our family business in Chicago. Never really thought I was going to be in the moving and storage business, but it's been a great ride.
How do you come to join Johnson's Storage and Moving?
So we, at my family business in Chicago, had a similar experience to what Jim mentioned earlier, which is our revenues literally halved during the Great Recession. And so I had an opportunity to move my family, and I met Mark through a professional organization called YPO, which is the Young Presidents Organization that we both belong to. And Mark and Jim were looking for a partner to help with revenue generation, restoring some of the lost sales that went out the door in the Great Recession. And I'm a business development guy at heart. And so I joined the business in April of 2010, and it's been awesome ever since.
Are you still a member of YPO?
We're in OPO now, which is the old President's Organization. They call it YPO Gold. So they never let you leave because they need your dues. So you're a member for life.
What message would you like to share with our viewers?
Oh, more than anything, just how proud I think we all are of the heritage of this business at 125 years old, which is why we're shooting this video and why we're glad you're here, Mike, to savor in this moment for us, because you've been so connected to this business and to the family. But, you know, there aren't a lot of companies that last 125 years and that last through the fourth generation at that. So we're all, I think, really proud of it, and it's just fun to share some of the stories.
Anything the three of you can search into your memories, some buddy trips or things like that as a team? Social or business?
Mine would not be fitting, so.
Mike, we used to have a retreat where Don and Jim and I would go out with maybe a key hired manager, a CFO or someone like that. And we had several really fun weekends up at Breckenridge, get a little bit of skiing, get a little bit of business in it. So we've had some nice moments together. And business acquisition trips turn into maybe a few days of fun before or after, as well as industry conventions and the like. So we've had some good times, the three of us, as well as our combined families together over the course of years. Absolutely.
Jim, anything that pops out of your memory?
Well, I think business to the ranch, so I've been out of this business for 15 years or so. So I've enjoyed hosting his family and Mark's family at the ranch. And so tie the two organizations together that way.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, we want to go back to the roots of Johnson Storage and Moving. Would it be appropriate for us to hop in a van and drive down to Broadway?
Absolutely.
Certainly.
Let's do it.
On a horseback, maybe?
That'd be a long horse
Or
ride.
let the horses at the ranch.
All right, let's do it.
We'll be back.
So, Mark, this is the Johnson Storage and Moving Museum.
Well, this is one of them. We've got it down in the boardroom as well, but these are different artifacts here.
So now these trucks here, you use these to move Lego blocks?
Yes, yeah, that's our model truck collection here. And one of the companies that we purchased while Don's been on watch here was Topeka Transfer back in 2012. And so this one's got the Topeka Transfer livery on it. And Don's former company in Chicago and throughout the upper Midwest, Clark Products, this is a model of their trucks. So Don's been in the trucking industry always. In fact, when Don and I had breakfast and met, Don said, I think that your business and my business are pretty much alike. And I wanted to say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but I went ahead and heard him give the explanation. He said, they really are. He said, the only thing is that you don't have title to the goods that are on the trucks. And there was some accuracy to it. You had some skill sets that applied reasonably well to your, the wagons here, as we talked about earlier, horsepower much more easily counted in those days. We had a 1-horse hitch, 2-horse hitch, and a 3-horse hitch. Let's see. Some pictures of Jim and I as younger men. Our father with us here. This is 1989. I had a whole lot darker hair and a whole lot more of it. And Jim and I up here, both of us still have our CBL licenses. And when our mother retired out of the University of Oregon system and decided to move back to Denver in 2002, Jim and I took a paying load to Portland and then drove down to Southern Oregon and picked our mom's goods up and hauled it back. The little boy here, Graydon, is now working in our apartment syndication operation, but he was a kindergartner at the time, and we were driving one of the first trucks that had a satellite communication system so that Graydon was able to communicate with his kindergarten class and tell them what he was seeing as we crossed, the broad deserts of Utah and went into southern Idaho. And he was talking about looking at the potato crop. This was fall time in 2002, and seeing all the trucks hauling potatoes and harvesting and bringing things in. It was a week of hard work, but a week of a lot of fun as well.
Now, I think I know what this must be. So when the Pilgrims first arrived to America, this is the truck that moved their goods inland?
I'd never heard that take on Mayflower, but I like that. That's good. The United Van Lines Company, which my grandfather and great uncle were founders of in 1947, in 1995 or 95, I believe, purchased Mayflower Transit. So many of us who are United agents also have an affiliation with Mayflower Transit as well. A holding company called Unigroup owns the 2 van lines, and they're 2 very prominent labels in the moving and storage business. Jim had talked about the ranch earlier, and you were real proud. John Fielder, rest his soul, famous Colorado photographer, did the shots in this book called Ranches of Colorado, and we were very honored to become a part of this book with our ranch. These are pictures of our ranch in this book.
Johnson Moving Storage. How old is that sign?
That sign's fairly new, Mike. My brother presented that as a gift to me and Don and the company about a year ago, but that sign was a replica of a neon sign that hangs on the building at 221 Broadway. The sign at 221 Broadway was amongst the first neon signs I'm told in Denver, having gone on the building in 1926. So a bit of a sentimental piece, and definitely a part of our heritage and legacy.
And 221 Broadway is going to be one of our next stops.
It will be. Good. Go back to our birthplace. Cool.
Who's this handsome devil?
That is my great-grandfather. I wish I had his good looks. His name was William Johnson. He was born in England, barely. His parents left Sligo, Ireland, en route to the United States with his mother pregnant with him. And en route to the States, the ship made port in England, and he was born while the ship was in port in England. He was born in 1856, 100 years before me. He had 4 children, 2 of whom became involved in the moving business. Those 2 are right over here, my great uncle and my granddad. My great uncle was born in 1888, my grandfather in 1892, and both spent the majority of their lives in the moving and storage business. They, as I'd indicated earlier, were founders of United Van Lines in 1947. My great-grandfather, ironically, was a founder of Allied Van Lines, our largest competitor, although we are now larger than Allied. But my great-granddad was part of the founding group of Allied Van Lines in 1928. My great-uncle never had any children. My father had just one, which brings us to this gentleman, who's my father. My father was born in 1928, and I miss him a bunch. He passed away in 2016, and was a over-the-road truck driver and did everything there was to be done in this business, from selling to accounting to moving the furniture. He was an attorney by education and trade.
Well, Art, this is quite an impressive building. Warehouse, storage? Tell me about it.
Warehouse, storage, distribution. We built this building and moved in October of 2006. The office space is about 13,000 square feet, and this warehouse is almost 50,000 square feet, plus the 8,500 square foot mezzanine, which we're walking on now. This building is the tallest, or at least at the time it was built, it was the tallest warehouse building in Denver at 42.5 feet clear. We actually just exceeded ourselves with the new building across the parking lot, which is 43 feet clear. The goods you see over here are stacked as much as 40 feet high. The racks that you're looking at over here are 40 feet high. And you can see a variety of goods. Handles still a lot of household goods in this building, but we also handle product of all kinds. And what's in the rack closest to us here are ATMs. You can see the various bank logos on them, and our account, Diebold, is one of 2 major international providers of ATMs.
I'm a little short. Can I get a couple of bucks out of one of them?
It's funny that you make mention of that, because when they come in after having been at a bank, not new ones from the factory, we check them. We've never found a single dollar, unfortunately. Various sorts of containers for household goods, what we call the slick-sided containers, that are plywood on the outside without any sign of bracing, are actually your tax dollar at work. Those are owned by the United States Transportation Command. And then military members' goods are put inside those containers to move primarily internationally, but they are used for some domestic work as well. So we handle a lot of military moves and civilian moves as well. The tier dock, which allows us to handle goods in and out of the moving van side doors. The vast majority of our shipments are going in and out the side doors versus the rear doors of the moving vans, and our competitors generally don't have a facility to accommodate it. Some of the things, Mike, that create an expense that my father and ancestors wouldn't even dream of, or like this machine. This machine's able to go all the way up there 40 feet. I pick goods and bring them down. There's a camera on the mast of the operator. Casey was... That machine sets us back about $90,000. Another neat feature of this building, in fact, this entire campus and many of the Johnson buildings around the nation, is that we were early adopters of solar power. The roof of this building is almost entirely covered by solar panels, and this building, inclusive of charging electric material handling equipment, is a net contributor to the grid. How about that? Isn't that neat?
Judging by all the noise in here, I don't think this is the library, is it? It is not a library. This is Johnson Fleet and Truck, and we have been in the truck maintenance business for at least 60, 70 years, well predating me, but we opened this facility in 2006 as well, and about 12 or 14 years ago started taking in outside work. So over half of the work that's done in this shop nowadays
is done for customers other than Johnson Storage and Moving. And shop does a wide array of work from total rebuilding of semi-trailers and van bodies, repairs, mechanical repairs to engines, transmissions, pretty much nothing that can't be handled in this shop. Take a little bit of a walk or look at things going on in here. We have kind of a neat project going on here right now. This is a 1926 model Mack truck. It came out of our New Orleans office, and obviously not something in day-to-day use, but we're rebuilding the engine in it, and believe it or not, they don't seem to have a whole lot of pulse availability. When I'd won, we're having to build most of the parts, but kind of a fun project for all of us involved. This is the oldest truck in the Johnson fleet.
And then as you can see going over here, some of our outside customers,
Federal Express, AAA.
I really am proud of the fact that we're the guys that keep AAA trucks on the road.
And as we work with competitors, with the Johnson Moving Competitors truck here, and we do work for probably a half a dozen competing moving companies and keep their trucks going as well. We work on a Ford rig, and of course earlier in this presentation I had a chance to meet my brother, so we do work on the ranch equipment, tractors, bulldozers, ATVs. There's pretty much nothing the skill sets in this shop can't handle in the way of repairing motor or mechanical equipment.
Intentional forklifted down in. This machine is called a donkey. It's a truck-mounted forklift. NA speaking, that
Donkey live to be on the back of one of our trucks, and that way when we get to a customer site, we have the containers that you saw in the warehouse earlier. You can go to the side of the truck, take the containers in and out. You get jobs in places like Dale, where we go into very tight streets and everything, and you've got containerized shipments. We use this little machine and we can get the container right up to the front door of the place. Works out nicely.
So here we are at 221 Broadway. This is where it all started. That little sign you showed me, that replica sign, that is your office on Jordan Road. This was the original site.
It is. Sign went on this building in 1926. It's one of the first neon signs in Denver, and is operable at night. It still turns on, and the new ownership of this building is going to continue the sign, and do a total rehab and paint it. They're going to leave the Johnson name up, so I'm quite honored by that.
Did we get on the video established in 1900?
Yes, the story is like my great-grandfather settled on this property in 1897 as a blacksmith and wagon builder. The story I'm told is that in 1900 he decided to diversify and start handling baggage and dray things in and out of Permian Station, and more importantly store things. People asked about why is Johnson Storage and Moving, and there wasn't a lot of consistency on the name in the early days. I see wagons that say Johnson Express and Transfer, but they settled in solid by about 1910 on Storage and Moving. I'm told that my great-grandmother said we were storing things further than moving things, so we are Storage and Moving.
We were walking around in there just a few moments ago, and they're already gutting the doors.
They are. This building was built in 1919. It's odd for me to think of a building built in 1919, and my family, when I was a kid growing up, always referred to this building as the new warehouse.
Okay.
Like this over here was the crane room. In the old days of the moving industry, the method to handle long-distance household goods moves was to crate everything in the house, literally all pieces, chairs, dressers, got a crate go around them, and they then load those crated goods onto a wagon or truck, take them down to a rail side and put it in a box car, and send a wire to a mover at the destination place at the box car number and anticipated date of arrival. That mover would go down, unload the crated goods, get them out to the house, uncrate the goods, put the items into the house. The padded moving van came about in the late 20s as motor trucks became more reliable. It's obviously tremendously more efficient than the crating operations. But even as a young man in business, we had swing saws, radial arm saws, and this was a pretty busy little room.
So this is the freight elevator.
This is the freight elevator. This machine goes to this building's origin in 1919. I think it's amongst the oldest continuously operating freight elevators in the city. It was built by a Denver company called Knock and Garside, long out of business, and there's still 2 or 3 of them around. An outfit called Centric Elevator maintains this elevator for it.
That works.
It is. It's still city inspected. You got current inspection certificate, and it is. You're going to use something in this elevator that's kind of fun. You see the rope. Rope's got nothing to do with like taking the elevator up and down, but it's a governor. And when this elevator starts up, you're going to hear a clank, 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 which is the governor item that the rope is turning. And if the elevator started moving too quickly, and I was personally witness to this on one occasion where we overloaded it, there are wood guide rails. You can see the rail here on this side, and you can see a guide rail over here. And if the elevator starts to run away, there are metal jaws that dig into that wood guide and bring the elevator to a halt, and it does work.
All right, Mark, I'll let you do it. Show us your prowess.
So there is a safety system here where the doors have to be closed for this to operate. The cable sets the direction for the elevator. So if we want to go up, we're going to pull the cable down. It has what's called a dead man switch on it now. This was added years later. In the old days, we could just pull the cable and away the elevator would go. We could also open up each of these doors that you see here. The code changed, and we had to put the mesh over the doors. But we used to be able, if we wanted the elevator, to just open the door, pull the cable, and bring the elevator to the floor where we wanted it. So with that going, up we go. You hear the clank? That's the governor.
Oh, Jared Bowles is here?
High value storage vault here. Only facility of its kind in the Rocky Mountain West. They have a smaller version of it at the Jordan Road facility. And for the ultimate of security, we had a vault within a vault. So come through those vault doors, you get to them.
What's the combination?
Used to have a piece of wood up here with a combination on it because I could never remember it. My wood's gone away. I don't know.
So here we are outside the building again. I see the Johnson teddy bear just to your right. Yes, indeed. This is really kind of nostalgic. Excuse me, a tear starts in my eye. Now you said Robert, the fellow who bought this from me, who's an architect who sold this, is going to leave that Johnson sign up there.
That's correct.
Even though he's going to convert this into some kind of a food court.
That's my understanding, yes.
True or first story?
He wants to maintain the heritage, and one thing that went into the sale contract is if the sign was ever to face removal or suffer inactivity, that the sign comes back to being my brother Jim.
Well, this is an absolute Denver landmark.
It is indeed.
I'm fascinated about the whole tour we've been on. Thank you so much for involving me in this, and you and your family, your father, grandfather, great-grandfather, have been stalwart builders of Denver.
Thank you, Mike. So appreciate it. So appreciate you being our spokesman.